Please welcome your hosts, Andy Barker and Lou Del Pree.
What? You were there and then you were gone. You were there and then you're gone. Well, you're back.
It's a common complaint when I was dating. You're in, you're out.
So,
Not appearing at all.
yeah, are you done yet? Did you even start?
I remember, guys, I have to cough for a second. Sorry. Very unprofessional, but I did find the cough button on this platform, which, by the way, I welcome everybody to our new platform. Hope you like it.
Absolutely. It's nice, isn't it?
Yeah.
Look at this. Look at this. It's all nice and fresh and clean looking. But anyway,
So I was going to tell you, Andy, real quick before I get off target with the platform. So there was this really nice girl that worked at the hospital we were stationed at together in Japan, right? But this was back in the 90s, right? Spoke very good English, very pretty girl. Somehow I was able to con her into sewing my rank on for inspection. Very nice person, right? We never dated, we never did anything, right? Never, nothing. Just, I'll tell you what though, not for lack of wanting to, right? She's a very pretty lady. Anyway, run into her years later, and I was like, I noticed what's his name, would always be sniffing around trying to ask you out on a date. Did you ever go out with him? And she said, that's the only person I ever had sex with where I was like, just get off of me.
oh, wow.
She said it just like that. I said, well, oh my God.
Wow.
I said, are you serious? She was like, Lewis, I was like, ugh, just get off.
That's crazy, man.
I had never heard that in my life. I'd only seen that in comedy shows. I said, there's no way this ever, that's why I was so stunned when she had said it. I don't want to say her name because she might still be, wandering around, having a good time, doing her thing. But a really nice lady. But it was just funny that she shared that with me 10 years later.
That's funny. Holy smokes. So, hey, you know what? I would be remiss if I didn't give our buddy Todd a quick mention.
Yeah.
Todd Showalter and his new show on News Talk STL. It's hilarious. It's great. And, of course I'm going to say that because, well, I'm involved in it. But every Saturday night, 5 p.m. Central Daylight Time. If you're not local, that's okay. Click on the little QR code there and they'll bring you right to the page and you can listen online. But Todd is a great dude and he's funny. And what I love the most about him is that when I'm around him, I don't have to worry about talking. Anyway, so
Todd's a genuine guy, man.
Sure.
I enjoyed my conversation with him, and you really get the vibe. What he brings on air is just exactly how he is off air. The same energy, same sense of humor, and same no nonsense when it comes to discussing issues. Just the genuine article.
Oh, he'll tell you what he thinks for sure. But absolutely, man, down to earth guy. What you saw on the podcast, what you hear on the radio that's him. That's him every day. He can entertain himself. It's great. But so Connie and I took a trip 2 weekends ago, and we went to Jefferson City. We took the kids, and we went to the old Missouri State Penitentiary. And so apparently this place is pretty haunted, from what they say. But we went and saw the gas chamber and death row and, all over the place. What I thought was cool was Joe Louis, the boxer. He was a resident, if you will, of the Missouri State Penitentiary for many years. So I don't remember what his charges were. I don't remember what his charges were. I don't remember what I had for breakfast, let alone a detail like that, 2-3 weeks ago. But anyway, I brought that story up because that just kind of segues nicely into our topic of the evening. And we're going to talk about some paranormal stuff.
Yes.
I prefaced some of the ads with, do you believe? Do you not believe? Have you had an experience? I don't know. But
before I get into, go ahead, Andy.
No, I was just going to say, what are your thoughts?
Oh, well, I was gonna say, before I go into anything we want to really talk about on the paranormal, I'll tell you exactly what I think about it. On a macro level, right? So I believe I have personally never seen nor had an experience, right? So I can't speak from an experience standpoint. However, I have people that I implicitly trust and have been a party to stories which I'll get into later. You know, we're going to talk about my time on the USS Constitution.
Mhm.
And just to give you a little tease on that, you know, completely unrelated people, completely different times throughout a 3-year period, telling the complete same story.
Hmm.
So you know, so I've have enough experience to where I believe there's something there. You know, but some people are sensitive to it and others are not. I'm not sensitive to it, thank God, because I feel like I would die. Like if I saw some nonsense float across the air, I'd probably have
Right.
a heart attack, man. I would. I just, you know, I'm not gonna sit here and say like, you know, I'm the baddest mofo around. You know, I'm smart enough to know there are people I'm afraid of. None of them live in Pittsburgh, but there are, but there are people I'm afraid of. You know, and I'm just saying, you know, there, as far as paranormal activity goes, you know, I don't have any experiences, thank God. But I know plenty of people, and like I said, I've been a party to some things that you know, what's the explanation? What other explanation is there? Can there be?
Well, you know, I'm have always been skeptical, right? And I married a Filipino who they believe wholeheartedly, 100% in that stuff.
That's deep. Yes.
Yeah, and so, but you know, I have had a few experiences that I can't explain, you know, and fortunately, the experiences I had people with me, so they were not only myself, but other people witnessing it as well. And I tell you what, man, had that not been the case, I would probably drive myself crazy. You know, did that really happen? Did it not? Am I imagining? Am I going crazy?
Right.
You know what the hell? But
So there's an yeah, I was gonna say there's an interesting aspect, you know, of the paranormal conversation, and I think it affects on, you know, whether or not people buy into it, as well as, you know, there is a religious component almost to it as well. You
mhm,
know, I mean, if you're going to believe in spirits, you know, and things like that, then you have to believe in the afterlife. And if you're going to believe in the afterlife, well, then, you know,
right.
what branch are we going to go down? You know, and I
Rodney
think,
Noah, what's up, Rodney? Thanks for joining,
hey,
buddy.
what's up?
Do you
But
know
so that's why
Rodney
I
at
think,
all?
no, I don't.
Because Rodney was in
Maybe.
he was in Japan. Um, I think he was there. Well, I think he was there right before we got there.
Uh,
So, but Rodney and I, we were corpsman together in
oh,
one
nice.
three. Yeah, and he went on just like I did and crossed over to the dark side. But you know, you gotta do what you gotta do, man.
I remember the first I worked for a Mustang, Lieutenant Sullivan, and he taught at the officer candidate school later on when he left Yokosuka. But he was the first like real officer I had, you know, a relationship with, where like we worked together, you know,
Hmm.
whatever. And I remember he was like, "Yeah, I made chief," and, you know, went and got a commission. And I just was, you know, they drill into you that chief petty officer, and I was like, "Why would you give that up?" And he just looked at me, "Money, money."
Right,
He's like, "I had a
right.
kid, I needed money." He
That's right.
doesn't care about that chief nonsense. He's like, "I
That's
understand
right.
you're young."
Well, of course, you got to see behind the green curtain, man, and it ain't all what it's all cracked up to be,
No,
if you know what I mean.
no.
The Chief's mess is what I'm referring to.
Oh yeah, no, yeah, yeah.
But you know,
It's been pretty perverted over the years. But going back to the paranormal though, I do want to get back onto. I do think there's an aspect of spirituality that people reject that causes
mm,
them to reject, you know, a belief sort of in that paranormal as well. Because if you are going to buy into that, then at some point you're going to have to ask yourself, you know, you know, is religion real? You know, whichever one, you know, you're closest or adjacent to. If you're not practicing, right? You know, you're
right.
going to start to wonder, like, is that you're going to have to question that too as well. And I always like when they talk, you know, and I'm stealing this from a guy named Todd Erzin. You know, he always says, "What's the number one reason people don't want to be a Christian? Because they don't want to believe in God. They don't want to be called a sinner."
Huh.
Right? What's the number 10 reason they don't want to believe in God? They don't want to be called a sinner. What's the number 55 reason they don't want to believe in God? They don't want to be called a sinner. He's like, you getting the pattern here?
Interesting. Yeah,
You know, people, yeah.
it's just like how do you believe in God, but you refuse to believe the devil is real? You can't believe in one without the other.
And that's the thing, and so when you start to look at the paranormal, you start to, there certainly is a spiritual discussion, I think, that happens as well. When we begin to look at those things.
Well, let's
And I think
break
that often
down
gets overlooked.
paranormal as a word. It's just it's not normal to what we know yet. Essentially, is what it means, right? So, who's to say it's not normal? We just haven't discovered or we haven't figured out what exactly is going on. So that's the way I kind of recently have started looking at it. All right, well, maybe this is real. Maybe it's just something we don't fully understand yet. Maybe in my lifetime we'll understand it. Maybe not. Who knows? But I'll tell you the one experience that really kind of messed with my head was this is a BC story. And for all of you that don't understand what BC means, my wife's name is Connie, and it's a before we were married story. So it's a BC story. So I was married previously. I don't remember if I told you that or not, Lou. And we lived in San Diego at the time, and we lived out by the canyons. We lived in Bonita, and there was, it was myself, my wife at the time, her friend was there, and then, I was dumb and married into Insta family, her two kids. The third child, this is for another podcast, but the third child was older, 15, and she was at the movies. With her friends. Well, so we're all sitting downstairs, and it's a pretty big house. It's a 2-story house. And the way the upstairs was laid out was it had the master bedroom, which had a very nice patio with a sliding glass door you could go out onto. And so come out of that room and just go straight down the hallway to the bathroom and the kids' rooms. Well, we're all sitting downstairs, and I swear to you, I heard footsteps walking through the master bedroom, down the hallway into the kids' bedroom. And we all heard it, and we all looked at each other, we're like, holy, did you hear that? We're like, yeah. And my first thought was somebody broke into the house, because it wouldn't take anything to scale that patio, jump up on that little lanai area, break through the sliding glass door and get in. Easy. I know, because I've been drunk a time or two and been locked out and had to do it. Anyway, so I grab my pistol and I go upstairs. I clear the entire upstairs. All the windows are closed and locked. The sliding glass door is locked. Nothing. I'm looking under beds. I'm looking in the shower. Nothing. Nobody there. Well, come back downstairs and everybody's kind of freaked out. But it was time to go pick up her daughter. So we go pick her up, come back from the movies. We get her in, and her mom sits her down, and she tells her what happened. And she just starts crying. She says, I told you, there's something in this damn house. I've been telling you that, and you never listen. We're like, I'm like, what the hell is going on here, right? So, no shit, it happens again. And we all heard it. Same thing. Nothing, man. And that was it. I can't explain it. Nothing else happened, It wasn't like somebody was poking her head out saying, boogity, boogity, boo, or,
Right.
But I can't
not
explain
spinning
it.
heads and vomit.
Right. Well, the ex-wife may have done that, but that's completely unrelated.
Right.
But, she was a loving woman. Yeah, I have to say this. She was a very loving woman.
Yeah. When you meet the family back with the slee stacks, you're in trouble.
Well, she just had to share that love with half of San Diego, so, had that going for me.
Right.
But go figure. San Diego. Around a bunch of sailors looking for a meal ticket. Go figure. Not my most proudest moment of my life.
I remember in Camp Lejeune Legal, they had like the mug shot of 4 women. Like, these are like serial marriers. Do not marry these women. Like, we will not help you marry these women. Like, you need to go get another lawyer.
Right.
Right. Like, these are serial marriers. They marry E3s, divorce them in a year, and collect 10% of their paychecks. Which if you do that to 40 E3s, that's a pretty good chunk of change.
Oh yeah, I was dumb. I fell into that trap, but fortunately, I got away scot-free. But again, that's another story for another time.
Yeah.
But I think we were both Lou and I were both independent duty corpsmen, and we've both had some opportunities to work in some very unique places, and I'm kind of jealous of the one that you got to work in. And That's on the Constitution. Because when I made
Yeah.
chief and I went through initiation, I got to go and get underway on the Constitution. I got to be there for a week, and it was really cool. And
It
that's
was a
what got
great tea
me.
station.
Yeah, I bet. That's what got me hooked on the stories. And who better to tell a story than you?
Right.
Seriously.
Right. No, yeah. So I was on the Constitution for 3 years as the ship surgeon. I went there, and it's so funny. So you have to do a phone interview to get on there, for a couple reasons, right? But one is you cannot be on there with a very thick accent because you're giving tours and you're speaking publicly, right? So they want to talk to you. So I am horribly, horribly ill this day, and I beg the commander for codeine because I cannot stop coughing. And he's like, I didn't even have to beg him. I was just like, do you think I can get some clofenicin with codeine? And he was like, my God, yes. Because codeine is, if you didn't know, is like the number one cough like suppressant. It's like really good. It helps out, and I could
Right.
not stop. And they weren't like clearing coughs. They were like clearly gasping for, so I needed to
The dry
stop it.
hacking. Yeah.
So I calculate this out perfectly. I'm going to take my medicine, get in my car. By the time I get home, I'll be tired. So I take my medicine, go out to my car. They call me from the Constitution for my interview. And about 10 minutes in, the codeine starts kicking in.
Oh, boy.
So I'm talking to the Master Chief, and he's asking me why I would be good for the Constitution. And I completely lose my train of thought. And I'm like,
Oh, no.
I'm just a nice guy. He starts laughing. he's like, I believe you. He's like, you sound horrible, because I told him I was sick. And he's like, just go home, get some rest. He's like, you got the job. We'll see you in a year, Like whenever, the PCS crap ends, right? Whatever.
Right.
But yeah, I was the codeine was kicking my behind so bad. I completely lost my train of thought and was like, yeah, I'm just a nice guy.
That's hilarious.
That's why you should take me, because I'm a nice guy. Anyway, I get up there. It turns out no one applied for the job, and as soon as I got it 3 months later, the calls all started coming in. Hey, when are you leaving? Not for 3 years, buddy.
That's right.
Hey, I want your job. When you going? It's that kind of station, but really cool. It's the USS Constitution, America's ship of state, right? Oldest commissioned warship afloat in the world. I still remember some of the facts and figures. I'll tell you, I do not remember it all. And there were still people who, tall ship aficionados who would come in and know every square friggin' inch of that ship,
I believe it.
Yeah, but one thing about the Constitution, is it sits in sort of its original design. Humphreys, I think the guy Joshua Humphreys, I think was the name of the shipbuilder. They follow his notes to this day. They have his notes from the building. That's why every 10 years they pull it out and dry dock it, because 200 freaking years ago, this guy said you should probably do it every 10 years. Like his notes aren't even that specific on the upkeep. Right. But they have his original designs and notes on how to upkeep the ship, and they follow them to the T.
So when was that ship commissioned again?
Oh my God. See that I'd be lying if I said I remember
In the
that.
1700s, right?
Yeah, it was like 1796. I don't want to say 96. Maybe it was 1796, but it definitely fought in the War of 1812. Like that's the bread and butter battle.
Right. Regardless,
One
I
of the
asked that
original six
because
frigates.
the fact that they still have the notes.
Yeah. Oh,
It's
yeah.
amazing, man.
So, and these are things, they don't teach you in school, or maybe they did, but they glossed over it, because they don't think it's that important. And I guess really, if you don't wind up in sort of situations, it's really a bit of useless knowledge. But pre-industrial revolution, paper was more like cloth.
Right.
And so I was able to see the original ship's logs and touch them, the sick call logs from 1812 and the original order from the original ship surgeon. And we were able to touch and turn and everything. The guy's like, you handle it properly, this will last forever.
That's
He's
amazing.
like, your paper, no, that'll be gone in a couple hundred years. Like, but this will last forever. So
it's amazing. Holy shit.
It is, isn't it? It is. And and I always take an opportunity to plug this, and I'll just say it one time. My time there, the historians told me they're very concerned about recorded history, to today because nobody's writing anything down. Nobody's journaling, right? So we're not getting a look at, 300-400 years from now, they're going to have to look at what was on the internet, right? And what's true in that and what's not.
Well,
Right? A lot of
everything is the
people,
internet.
that's what I'm saying. And a lot of people's names don't reflect whatever. So they're going to have a real hard time to put all this together. And so what the historians were telling me on the Constitution Museum is nobody writes logs. And because of that, we're very concerned. He opened up a drawer and he pulled out a bunch of 3x5 discs. He goes, I don't know what's on here. And no one will because we can't afford to convert them. He's like, so everything that's on here, he's like, and I have a desk full of it. He's like, and imagine how much other stuff is out there that's on that 3x5 media that somebody thought would be around forever that we are never going to see. He's like, now everything's migrating to disk and discs are going to go away because now everything's going to the cloud. He's like, but what happens after the cloud? He said, that's the thing is how is this information gonna remain? He's like, whereas if you sit and you journal and you write,
it's definitely become a lost art.
That.
It's a lost art.
We will have that. So he said, if more people would write and journal, he said, like he told me, and I wish I would have asked this at the beginning, right? How dumb, right? He said, if I had kept a log every day, they absolutely would have put it in the National Archives because I was the ship surgeon. Of course, that's historical.
Wow, that's cool, though.
It is. So I told the person who relieved me to do it. I don't know if she did. But anyway, on to the paranormal, right?
Yes.
So a couple of things on the Constitution. One thing is the Navy did hire Ghost Hunters International to come on board the ship and do a survey. I was not a part of the crew when they did it. It happened long before I got there. The Navy does not want that published or to be common public knowledge because they don't want the ship. They were going to do an episode. There was a film crew there and everything. The park rangers were talking about it, right? But the Navy didn't want them to do it because they didn't want the ship to turn into a Halloween attraction. Right now, it services about 500,000 visitors on a historical basis, on a historical value, right? But if it becomes
per year, right?
Yeah, per year, and if it becomes on average 300,000 to 500,000, and if it becomes this type of Gothic icon, they were afraid it would lose its historical value, so they never released it. But there is a report from Ghost Hunters International that sits in the CO's office. His desk, if they haven't removed his desk, I'm telling you right now, when he sits at his desk and looks straight ahead, it is to the right on the third shelf. I know because the person who told me about it, and even on the ship, it's not really common knowledge because it doesn't come up much. No, the ship has. So I saw somebody ask about that. I have an extremely funny story about somebody who called me thinking there was an engine on there and caused me 6 months of trouble. Okay, but no, the ship has not been modded. I shouldn't say that. It has a sprinkler system installed. It does have a sprinkler system. Yeah. So the toilets and everything, if you're wondering about the ship and you go take a tour, was at the front. It's a very historical value. Anyway, but like I said, we could do a whole other conversation. But so Ghost Hunter Internationals did the survey, and what they found were 3. I read the survey, right? I was told by some, and I'll keep the names out of it because I don't know if they want to be associated with exposing the fact that Ghost Hunters International is
sure.
But somebody told me where it was. I went and asked for it from somebody who had permission to go get it. They got it, gave it to me. I read it, right? So I have seen it. I've held it in my hand. So they said there were 3 spirits. All 3 are positive, or they have this terminology. And again, I haven't read this report in years, but basically that there were 3 friendly spirits. They're not a problem. And they're probably not going anywhere either. So that these 3 spirits are stuck there. So that's the report, right? In a nutshell. Now, fast forward, I coordinate Boy Scouts. So here's another little tidbit. I don't know if they still do this. I had thought about calling and finding out because I do tell people about this program. And if they're not still doing it, I want to stop telling people. But they used to let Boy Scouts of America troops stay overnight on the ship. So I would coordinate that. So if you were a Boy Scout and you wanted your troop, was taking an annual big trip, and your big trip was to Boston to walk the Freedom Trail, you could park, put your stuff in the classroom, walk the Freedom Trail, spend the night, and then you just had to leave before the ship opened in the morning. right? So you couldn't come on, you couldn't come on the ship until it closed, and then you had to be off before it opened. And a sailor got volunteer points. They would stay and give you a tour and help you out and sleep on the ship with you. They loved it.
Huh.
All right. So now to that, if you think about the ships, okay, and the way they're designed, the berthing deck is on the third deck, right? You have the top deck, gun deck, berthing deck. In the berthing deck, officer berthing's in the back. When the Boy Scouts sleep over, the instructions I give to the sailors, I was a registered Boy Scout and the district commissioner.
Which
so I
you
would
can't
tell
call them
them,
Boy Scouts anymore.
that's
by
right,
the
it's
way.
family scouting. So when the family scouts, when the Boy Scouts would come, we would tell them the Boy Scouts stay in enlisted berthing, right? The section of the ship that's enlisted berthing, and then the adults have to stay in the officer berthing. The reason for that is there's doors separating them, right? And then we just let the adults stay there because they're adults, right? You don't have to teach. You don't need to teach me to suck. I know that.
Right.
Right. That's why my backpack's a little bigger than theirs, because I'm coming prepared. They're learning about preparedness. So anyway, there is one room, the third one from the right, when you walk in, where on 3 separate occasions from 3 separate troops from 3 separate locations in the country, I have heard the same story when I checked on them in the morning. At about 2 a.m., it gets extremely cold in this room where you can see your breath. There is the sound of cannon fire and gun and feet, like heavy boots, running everywhere. Out of nowhere, an officer busts in the room, opens the trunk, looks for something, and then always looks to the person in the room and motions in a manner that all 3 of these people who have told me this story was a manner that said, "Don't worry." And then he runs out. And then there's a little more sound of gunfire and it goes away.
So 3 separate groups, 3 separate occasions have told you this.
I have heard that story. Completely unrelated.
Almost verbatim, huh?
What never changes is cold, gunfire, feet, officer looking in trunk, and motioning that everything's okay. Sometimes they get confused on what he was wearing. Some say it was a coat. Some say it was like there was no coat. But when you think about, these ships and everything, right? So 15% of the USS Constitution is considered original wood. 12 to 15% is what, yeah, right. 12 to 15% is what they say original wood, right? But ever since the ship was sailing, the wood's been being replaced, right? And as soon as a cannonball hits it, you're replacing again, according to Joshua Humphreys in the ship's notes, you replace the board that was struck and a board above and below, just to be safe, right? So that ship's been being repaired. It's been being replaced ever since it launched, right?
Right.
Right. But consider what's happening. Consider warfare at the time. The first Marine killed in combat aboard a naval vessel was the USS Constitution. It was Lieutenant Bush. Right. He was killed jumping on when he went up onto the taffrail to motivate the Marines to cross over to raid another ship. Somebody was shot. He jumped up and said, "Hey, the captain got shot." And Lieutenant Bush jumped up, raised his sword, and then he took it right in the face, man. I mean, he was done. So they named the small quarterdeck when you enter the ship, the building. When you enter the building, you enter through the Bush quarterdeck. Several ships have been named after Lieutenant Bush, which is interesting because, you look at some of these ships and you're like, "Oh, Bush, the USS Bush, that must be named for the No, it could be for Lieutenant Bush. You have to check on that."
Very interesting.
Yeah, it was
See, and this is why I wanted you to tell the story, because you're so damn good at it.
Oh yeah, we could go down all the rabbit holes. Thank you.
For sure.
But think about these violent deaths that these people are having, and so if there's anything too, I mean, what do we know from movies, right? Like paranormal movies, right? Stay away from Indian burial ground and don't go anywhere where somebody died violently. I mean, those are like the 2 main things that you can do.
And don't go off by yourself.
Yeah. Did you hear Dave Landau? Do you know who Dave Landau is?
No.
Dave Landau's a comedian on the network, The Blaze. And after the Republican primary debate, he said Tim Scott looks like the black guy in every movie that gets killed in the first scene. He said he was so low energy. Dave
You know
went.
what? Let's segue for just a quick second. You know, the whole thing about that Tim Scott. I normally like Tim Scott, but it just annoyed the crap out of me during the debate. Was everything out of his mouth was, "Well, we need to talk about or we need to discuss." It's like,
Yeah, he's
look,
a really
man,
nice guy. You know, he's just a really nice guy. I mean, I don't want to get political. I stay on the Constitution and paranormal, but yeah, Tim Scott's a really nice guy, and these aren't really nice times, you know. And I think he's just a man out of time. But he's somebody who I wish we were at a place for him to be.
yeah,
You know, and I wish we
Yeah.
were. I wish we were calm enough that somebody nice, laid back, you know, thought. But right now, you know, you just you need a tank, man. You just do.
Yeah.
The world's just working in a way where
question in the
tanks are
room.
needed. Yeah. So, do I hear a lot of ghost stories related to military ships and places belonging to military? Yeah. I mean, certainly I've heard them when I was on the Constitution. The other one I heard about pretty consistently, but I do want to caveat: this is a crew story. Okay. So this could be
Could fall under the telephone game effect.
yeah, it could fall under telephone game, but it's survived pretty well. And the people who, you know, some people when they tell you a story, you're like, okay, all right, here, let's backpedal. Okay, I'm not going to go into detail because Andy and I are trying to try not to curse and like have these like real inappropriate conversations, right? You know, but let's bring up the donkey show in Mexico. Okay, it doesn't exist. Okay. But if you talk to sailors, they'll all say they saw it because nobody wants to be the one who didn't see it. Okay, but I'm telling you right now, it doesn't exist. I walked down all over Tijuana with a Mexican friend of mine who spoke Spanish, and we didn't find anything except laughs and potential knifing spots. So all I'm telling you is we went all over that place, okay, and there's nothing. All right, but if you ask everyone stationed in San Diego, they've all seen it. They can give you directions to it, except when you're there. Then all
I've
of a
never
sudden the
seen
things
it.
look different. What?
I've never seen it. However,
No one
I
has.
can promise you and verify for sure 100% there is a banana show in Okinawa
There's one in Thailand. But my
outside
point
of
is,
Gate 2 Street.
yeah, my point being is, you get so far down a rabbit hole, people, you know, you can kind of tell when somebody really has never been there or even close, but they just
Right.
don't want to be the one, right? So there were those people on the Constitution telling this story, right? Who I could tell, no, yeah. But then there were other people, and this is why Andy and I, you know, talk about it. And I wanted to bring it up in the beginning of the show, why I have the belief I have, you know, why my jury isn't out on it, is because, you know, as solid people who have no reason to lie to me, right? They have no reason to come to me and tell me this story, okay? I'm the one that told everyone my first muster on the Constitution to put the condoms back in the jar because none of them are having sex. Okay? So they knew, don't come to me with nonsense, all right? That was my
Right.
very first words to them. I kid you not. The senior chief, I didn't say it like that though, so the senior chief pulled me aside and was like, Doc, we don't talk like that anymore in the Navy. So anyway, but they all told me the same story, and that story is down in so you know, on the USS Constitution, you could have what's called powder monkeys, and basically parents could sell their children into service to the Navy, right? So and they could be as young as
Not
eight
today. Not
or
today.
10 years old, right? So you have these
Right.
kids that are 8 or 10 years old that were put on these ships, okay? And then these are the dirty facts that, you know, the Navy and history all want to forget. You know, we think history's not whitewashed. It absolutely is whitewashed. Part of the reason Marines slept on the ship as well, and we had Marines on the ship as well, was to keep sailors from raping these kids, okay? That's just true. That's just true. All right? So that was part of Marine responsibilities, was to keep sexual assaults to a minimum. All right? It's part of their guard duty orders. All right? But we try to keep all this stuff whitewashed in history and everything. But they did have young kids. They were called powder monkeys. They will not use that term anymore. They stopped using that term in 2016. They say ship's boys now, but the actual designation was powder monkey, because they were small, and those ships are built for combat. They're not built for comfort, right? So the lower you go in the ship, so too does the ceiling. And these little boys could run between the decks and fetch the powder. The powder room was in the back of the ship, and it was very, like, it was underwater, right? Like under the ship's draft line. and very small access, like a square. So you have to get down, and then you're hunched over the whole time. And then you're in the powder room. That's hunched over. It's another square you have to crawl through, because that room is protected by copper shielding and things to keep it from blowing up. And anyway, long story longer, kids were faster at it. Parents could sell them to the Navy to work on the ship, and then the parents would get paid, not the kid. So, you had like these 10-year-olds on the ship running around. Anyway, story is sailors like to go down into the powder room, and they and entertain their lady friends, right? Or, lady sailors have if they're male friends down there, or, I don't know. Do I have to give every combination? Anyway, bottom line is
no.
Right. Bottom line, couples go down there and they like to carve their name in the hold after they do the deed. Okay. It's so funny, right? Andy and I, we're older, right? And, we've both been married for a while. And they're talking about this, and I look at my wife and I'm like, hey, want to go carve your name down there? And she just gave me a look like, I want to carve our name in my bedpost. I'm trying to epoxy our initials. Like, I'm trying to fill that in right now. Anyway, what they say though is when they're down there entertaining lady friends, and not just entertaining lady friends, right? But that's the most that I've heard it. Mm-hmm. I did hear it 2 other times, under different circumstances. But basically, when you're down there not executing duties, right, official duties, that if you look up, there's a young boy who, and this, in telephone things change. Mm-hmm. This has never changed. There's a young boy, and they say he looks down, points at you, and says. So for those of you that can't see, I'm wagging my finger like in shame. Like, and he looks down, and like, you're not supposed to do that. So again, going back to, some sailors tell the story because they don't want to be the one who didn't see it. Mm-hmm. Okay. I had 2 sailors that I literally had to discipline for refusing to go down there. That's part of the ship check at night, and they would not do it. And I purposely left things to make sure, like, in order for you to go down, you have to remove a hatch. Mm-hmm. Right. So I had tape, you know what I mean?
Yeah, your tells.
Yeah, because I knew they were afraid because other sailors told me, so I wanted to help them, right?
Right.
I did. I didn't want to get him in trouble, but, so I was like, you're not going down there. So I said, come on, we'll go together, right? Let's go together. Let's go. You have to get over this, right? You can't. That's why I say some people are I believe some people are sensitive to it, and some others aren't. I had a sailor tell me, one of the female sailors, write me up. I am not going back down there. I do not care. Now, of course, I didn't write her up.
I actually think I'm probably one of them people that are sensitive to it. I've been in denial pretty much my whole life, but when we had a friend over the other day and at dinner, and we're talking about this stuff, and I started talking about the experiences that I've had. And I'm like, wait a minute, maybe it's me. I don't know. But I still don't know if I believe, but I certainly believe in energy, right? And I believe in science, and I believe in law of thermodynamics. So, again, paranormal to me just means it's something we haven't figured out yet.
Yeah, you have an excellent concept and take on it. Like years ago, Peter Jennings he hosted like a UFO special, right? And when I say years ago, I mean like 20 years ago. Mm-hmm. Okay, it's not recent, because he died. Shoot. Anyways, I'm pretty sure it was Peter Jennings. And at the end, of this whole UFO thing, like, he does this little monologue, and he's like, do they exist? I don't know, man. Like, they could be right next to me, like when you step on an anthill, do you notice the complexity of that society? Right. No, you just walk by, you kick it over and you move on. He's like, they could be right around us walking around, they could be trying to communicate right now, but we're so dumb.
I mean, UFOs is a great topic. Are UFOs paranormal? Are they aliens? I don't know.
Well, and that's what Jennings was saying. He was like, they could be all around us right now, but we don't see in that spectrum. Like the whole thing is that there's not enough data to make any conclusion about anything. Like it's like the it's like Russiagate, right? Well, I can't convict Trump.
Right.
I didn't find any wrongdoing either. Like, oh man, I guess I wasted millions.
Oh, it's that time of the show for story of the week. That's right.
Yeah.
I don't know if you prepared one, Lou. I have one. Has nothing to do with the topic at hand.
Go ahead. I got one whenever.
So, as you may or may not know, I know that Lou knows, but I started back to school this week. So I'm going to doing online courses through Liberty University. I'm going back to get my master's in counseling and life coaching, and going through the book that I paid. I don't even have it over here. Over $200 some for a used version of it. Really got my goat for one. Number two, I could not get past the first chapter with seeing everything to do with white privilege, male bashing. I was just floored, man. I'm like, it's the first chapter. And truth be told, I don't believe it really has anything to do with the topic at hand. But so that's my story of the week. Be sure if you have children that are going to school, whether it's elementary, high school, college, get into what they're trying to teach. And if their values are not aligning with yours, then you better for sure talk to your kids, and because the agenda is real, faux real. Anyway, that's my story of the week. What you got, Lou?
Nice. So I had a tech story. Elon Musk's ex is being sued for not offering enough positions to migrants and refugees based off their immigration status. So the DOJ is suing Twitter X. But what I was thinking though while we were going through story of the week is Hojo Potatoes got some questions, so I was going to answer them real quick during my story of the week. But has the ship been modernized behind the public's view? So the ship doesn't go anywhere. And like I said, they have the fire suppression system. That is the only modernization on that ship. Everything else is no, I shouldn't say that. There are 2 saluting batteries. 2 of the mock guns. They're all like sort of wooden and metal frames. But 2 of the mock guns up front have been retrofitted with saluting batteries. So either side of the ship can fire a salute. Depending on which way it's facing, which they do fire every morning and every evening. Colors. But no, that's the only thing. When it goes out, it gets tugged out. There's a tug that comes in, marries up, and then tugs it out. And then they turn around and tug us back. I did sail on it the second time it sailed under its own power in 90 years to do that. So when the ship does go out, to answer your question about the toilets, they bring porta-johns on. They get lifted on, brought over, set on. There's 2 of them, one up front, one in the back. There's no toilet system on the ship at all. Nothing. So
that just reminds me, Hojo Potatoes, I believe is how you say it. Since I'm assuming that you're not military, there's a tradition, especially in the Marine Corps, that every time you go into a porta-john, that there has to be drawings left, and they're usually very graphic genitals, male genitals, if you will. So I bring that story up because Lou, I got to ask: are the porta-johns on the Constitution art free?
I don't know. Usually I'm stuck down in the medical space every time it goes out. I very rarely get up top. Although the time that it sailed, I ran upstairs, took the helm, and did give it a quarter turn under the captain's orders. It was hilarious because he was like quarter right helm, and I was like quarter right, cat. He turned and looked like
who let this guy up here, right?
Pretty much, right? And then I ran right back to my hole. But yeah, I usually have to sit in medical because it's a lot of VIPs. It's a lot of older VIPs. So I have to be down there. And that's kind of the deal is like the first one I went out and I kind of had no responsibility because we bring a physician down from New Hampshire, and then that was sort of the deal. Was like that first one I hang out and hang out with my family, and then all the next ones, when they come down, they can run around and do whatever they want to do, and I'll man the medical space.
Right.
So
that's cool. Yeah.
So the toilet situation in real life is at the front of the ship, and there's netting, and you go up there. That's why they call it the head. It's up at the head of the ship, and you do your business down the front of the ship. The reason you do that is the front dips lower as it sails, so it cleans itself as it sails. The other reason is it sails with the wind to its back, so it would blow any like stink or anything. It wouldn't be blowing it back towards the crew, right? While you're doing your business, it'd be blowing it forward. And they would use line. They would throw line over the side, and then after they did their business, they would pull it up, and that's how they would wipe with that rope, that hemp, and then they would throw it back over, and it would clean itself as it went along. But yeah, you'd be pulling up rope from some other guy. I mean,
that's disgusting.
But that's what they did. So funny story, Chiefs Initiation Week, we get a couple of Chiefs that think they're going to be funny and go up there and take pictures with, dropping their pants, like pretending, right? Except what they forgot was they were dropping the sail up top. So dude was like, "Hey, what you doing on there?" They all looked up with their pants around their ankles like, "Yes, fun picture because my angle's better." They got in trouble for that.
That's hilarious.
Yeah. We usually probably the biggest problem I had on there, I'll be honest with you, injury wise, was the third deck is about 5'7", almost exactly, right? So if I did not take a bounce on my step, I'd hit my head, and that's mostly 9 out of 10 times what happened. People would hit their head on the berthing deck, and I'd have to come out and be like, "Yeah, man, you hit your head. You can leave."
Stitches? Do you do a lot of stitches or no?
No. I did have one guy though. You know how the Vietnam vets have all those pins in their hat?
Yeah.
Yeah, he hit it and it raked, man.
Oh no.
Oh yeah, he looked like he was coming out of Da Nang again. And he's like, I don't want anything. I'm okay. I was like, you're scaring children, okay? You're not leaving here until I at least clean your face, all right? I get it. Well, because those scalp wounds and those pins, they're so small, but they bleed so much. And I mean, he did. He looked like he was coming out of the bush again. Like he just knifed like 40 VC, and and he's like, "Guns, wusses, right? All you need is a K-bar and commitment,
Right, that's right.
Yeah. But anyway, I said, "No, man, you can't go." So I had to wipe his face and stuff. Yeah, people would get sick, they'd throw up. I mean, and then I had to have that fight, right? Like medical, you need to come out and clean it. And I'm like, why? Because it's biohazard. Like, get the hell out of here. I ain't going to clean that, man. You got E3s for that,
That's right. I do believe that people were shorter back in those days.
Yes, 100%. And actually, when you went to join the military, if you were shorter, they pushed you towards the Navy. And if you were taller, they pushed you towards the Marine Corps because the thought was you'd have a wider wingspan for the muskets. Could aim better, shoot better, and then you have a farther reach for the swords. So if you were taller, they'd push you towards the Marine Corps, which is why. Here's a bit of trivia for you, which is where, and this is the recorded historical true fact. This is where Jarhead comes from. It comes from the Age of Sail, when they would beat to quarters, right? It's time to fight. Marines and sailors slept on the same berthing deck, right? So since Marines were taller, they would jump up and start to run to their stations and jar their head off the beams of the berthing deck. And so the sailors would make fun of them, calling them jarheads because they were taller. But that's what it's from, jarring their head off those wooden beams. And I'm here to tell you, they're very unforgiving, okay?
Oh, yeah. I can picture it right now. I tell you, it was really cool. When I made chief when I was in Groton, I was going through sub IDC conversion course, and so a couple of weeks before I even found out that I made it, a buddy of mine and I we went to Boston. We did the whole tour, man. Went to the Constitution, and did the tours. The Freedom Trail and all that stuff, and it was amazing, man. And then because one tour you can't you just can't get it all in. You know what I mean? There's no way. So when I made chief and I got the opportunity to go up there for the week, that was just, it was fantastic, man. It didn't matter how much you got screwed with, because if you're a history aficionado, just being there makes all that other crap not even matter. You know what I mean? But,
Oh, I know, and the funny thing is, and this is like people make fun of me for this, right? Like the USS Constitution is like a premier duty station, all right? I had no idea. I was talking to a buddy of mine. I was like, yeah, I'm gonna go on the Constitution. It's a ship up in Boston, so I guess I'll deploy. I mean, just gotta do a ship anyway. And he's like, the Constitution? I said, yeah. He's like, you know what that is? And I was like, oh, it's a ship. He's like, why don't you Google that? And he's standing over my shoulder, and I Google it, and I'm like, are you kidding me? The Navy has a pirate ship? He's like, look at your uniform. And I was like, is that what that is? I was like, I just figured it was a random, sailing ship that somebody designed, and the Navy thought it was cool and made it its seal. Like, I had no idea that was like the Constitution. None of it. He's like, dude, jeez. And then when I passed the interview, he was with me too, and I hung up. I was like, he's like, so did you get it? I was like, yeah. And he's like, and with that, they bought a mouth.
That's right. Oh, so hey, Hojo was he was a devil dog in the reserves back in the 80s. So what was your MOS? Because Lou and I both served Greenside FMF for a long time.
Yeah, and don't worry about when you say you never knew any of this, I never knew any of it. And then I started to get the flavor for it. 330, we had machine guns.
Hayat.
So by the time I really got into it, by the time I really got a hold of it, and I realized what I had, it was too late. I could only do so much in that last year because I didn't fully appreciate where I was until the end. And it wasn't really until I met the ship's surgeon historian, Matt Brankel. I don't know if he's up there, but he really ignited my passion in the ship with his knowledge and his depth, and how he caught my attention was his no BS. I thought I found a picture of Amos Evans Googling, right? Like Matt Brankel's never heard of Google. And so I'm like, hey, Matt, I found a picture of Amos Evans. He's like, that'd be interesting because they haven't had one in 230 years.
Wow.
What do you got? And I show him, and he's like, oh, that's the composite. Yeah, that's not him. And he's just so matter of fact. He's like, that's a composite of his mother and father. He said, there's a portrait of his father. There's a portrait of his mother, and they've did this composite, which you have right there. He said, but there is no painting that exists of Amos Evans. He said, now we think there might be one, and we're just waiting for someone to uncover it in their aunt's attic. Said he's the one who he's the one who told me all about written record and about how this stuff gets found in attics far more than you would be you would think.
Right.
People have no idea what they're sitting on. None.
You know what that sound is?
I do.
It's time. It is time for our segment of Veterans Helping Veterans. So this week, I'm going to highlight an organization. Now, I'm gonna get daring here, man. I'm going to try to screen share here. Let's see if it happens or not.
Look.
Yeah, let's see.
I have my Pez.
There we go. How about that? Hey, now we're cooking with gas. So the mission continues. If you want to find them, you can find them at missioncontinues.org. So they're on a mission to connect veterans with under-resourced communities. Our programs deploy veteran volunteers to work alongside nonprofit partners and community leaders to improve educational resources, tackle food insecurity, foster neighborhood identity, and more. So if this sounds like something that you might like to get on board with, go ahead and take a little picture of that QR code there and download their information and check them out. See what they're all about. All right, look at that.
The only thing I'll add is, hey, if you're listening tonight and you got a veterans organization you want us to plug on the show, send it to us.
Absolutely.
We'll check it out and we'll give it a mention.
Yeah, if it's a great organization, no qualms about sharing that whatsoever. But Wow, paranormal, man. Again, I have a ton more stories I could have shared tonight, but
Oh.
I'm telling
But
you.
we went to so for those who don't know, Andy and I have migrated multiple times, and we've settled on on this format and show and everything. A while back when we were part of a crew, we did a function get together up in northeastern PA, and that you remember that was at a cemetery golf course,
That's right.
and the caretaker there, boy, he had some stories. He said, and if I remember correctly, he interacts with it regularly. He said they have a
Really?
good relationship. Like he can tell when it's agitated, and he takes care of business, and he can tell when it's having a good time.
Interesting.
I don't know if you talked to him about it, but
No, I never did. I have a friend that he's a very down to earth guy. He's as normal as you and me, and he owns quite a bit of property about 40 miles north of me, and he swears up and down that he's seen Bigfoot. And he's not the kind of guy that would just be making crap up to make it up. You know what I mean? So I believe that he's seen something. I'm just not sure it's Bigfoot. But
the Wendigo.
The Wendigo. But I've been camping on his property several times, and I've heard some strange sounds.
I haven't been able to shit right for a week.
It's that damn
I'll take that
Sasquatch.
fine. I'll
That's
pay
who.
that fine.
But man, whatever. It's cool to be out there. I wish I would. I joke him all the time. He's like, "Hey, did you see it? Did you see anything?" I said, "Yeah, he came down. We played some cards and hung out, and I left him sticky, broken, confused." Sent him home with a just pumped the neighbor's cat look on his face. But anyway, dude, this was a fun topic. We could have gone on and on. We might have to have a paranormal part 2 later on down the road.
Yeah,
but,
absolutely. And I didn't even get to my Teen Vogue top 10 signs your house is on it.
Oh, well, let's do it real quick.
All right. Well, I'll go. Believe me, it's not worth.
Well,
I don't even know if I still have it. Do I still have it? Yeah, I still have it. Okay.
We'll just close the show out with it.
Oh man, hold on, give me a second.
You know what
All
we
right, here
need? We need a drum roll. We'd like the David Letterman's.
Do I have
top
one?
10.
I got something. I don't know what I have.
There we
there
go.
You go. All right, number 10. Your pets are acting strange.
Okay, this is not supposed to be funny, right?
I don't know. Number 9. No, this isn't right, but it's Teen Vogue. I don't know.
Oh.
Like I googled 10 things, just if we needed a time filler. Anyway, you have strange dreams you've never experienced before, and at night feel a sensation of touch as though something or someone is reaching out to you.
So when did you renew your subscription to Teen Vogue?
I don't know, man. It's what came up. I thought it said 10 Vogue. like it was a repository for top 10s. And then I looked at it and I was like, oh, it's Teen Vogue. Okay. Anyway, missing objects are found in strange areas of your home and places other than where they were left or are usually kept. Okay, my wife does this crap to me all the time, telling me everything has its place.
The time.
Oh my God. Don't touch
my wife
stuff.
says the same thing.
Mess.
But she's the one that never puts anything back in the same spot twice.
Oh, I can't say that. My wife
drives
is
me
ridiculously
insane.
regimented. Ridiculously regimented.
Anyway.
You've had a peripheral ghost sighting.
Oh.
Yeah, that's a good sign. TVs or electronic devices turning on and off can be a sign that the entity is pulling its energy from your power source. Oh, okay. All right.
Or you need to pay the damn bill.
Yeah. Or don't forget you set Alexa alarms when you leave the house. My neighbor hates it. Frigidly cold areas of room as well as sudden drop in temperature, usually between 20 and 30 degrees, can mean there's a ghost among you. I'd say if my temperature went up, my daughter's been messing with the...
Yeah. Or your wife is pissed at you and you're about to get it.
Yeah,
temperature drops.
That is, yep. You have a real Joyce Bayers moment with the lights in your house. From Stranger Things.
Oh, God.
I wouldn't have got. I didn't get that. They have paragraphs under each of these further explaining them, so I had to read the paragraph on that. Weird sounds like whispering voices might indicate that another being is trying to get your attention, or that there's a residual haunting happening in your home.
You know what? That's one of the things that I have experienced. Whispers in my ear, and I can't make out what they're saying. but it's only happened in one location, and that was when we were in Pensacola. Never
Well, I
happened
think-
before or sent or after.
That's good. Like I said,
Yeah.
if this shit happened to me frequently, I'd be freaking out. Odors inexplicably emerge from a localized area.
We
During
call
a
that
specific time of day.
flatulence.
Yeah, like after I eat lunch. You've experienced a strange creeping feeling like someone is watching you. It's because I am.
That's right.
Right? But those are the
Wow.
top 10 signs from Teen Vogue that your house is
Wow.
haunted. Now, interestingly enough, right? When I Googled this, there was a very, very neat article underneath that I did not click or look at, but the headline caught my attention. It said, quarantined in a possessed house. Here's how to survive. And I was thinking, holy crap, I didn't even think about that. Could you imagine if your
Right?
house was haunted, you were sensitive to it, and your only relief was work, and they were like, sorry, mask up, stay at home, 14 days. You know that goes to like, can't go anywhere now, can you, buddy?
All right, man.
Hey,
This
it's hot,
much
it's
fun.
cold, it's hot, it's cold, it's hot, it's cold. We're gonna do this all day.
I haven't had this much fun since 1887.
Right? Oh my God! When I saw that, I was like, I didn't even think about that. People that we were worried about kids and mental health. Fuck them. What about the people that are in possessed houses? I cursed again.
All right. Well,
We
that
gotta end
looks
this
like it's
before I curse too
about
much.
all the time we have for this evening. Thank you, everyone who came into the room and enjoyed our BS session and talked about weird stuff. Next week we'll be back and bring you another great show. Lou, thanks again, buddy. I will
Thanks,
talk
everybody.
to you soon. All right, peace.
Like, hello.